Three, two, one. What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Dan Stephen here for a new episode. So in this episode, we're going to be trying something different, Stephen.
hmm What
We're
episode number is this? What number are we on?
126, I think it is.
Yeah,
There you go.
sweet.
So we talked about this idea before, and we were going to do it a while back, but then we started getting guests on stuff, some good guests and stuff. So we've decided recently, let's just stick to us two talking shit on the
Mhm.
podcast because that's what the
Yeah.
podcast is meant to be. And we decided we're going to try to write a movie, not a movie per se, like a screenplay, a story that would be good as a movie.
Okay. Did we decide this or did you decide this? Am I joking?
Well, technically,
Yeah.
I don't cut that fucking bit out. So we talked about
um,
because you've done some writing in the past. Like you,
mhm.
I think that's one of the ideas we started doing the podcast because I knew you used to do. You wanted to do blogs, or did you do? Did you ever start a blog?
I did, yeah. I dabbled with a couple of different things.
Because you're a
I know it's
big
all.
fan of writing.
Yeah, I used to be. It's kind of fell by the wayside at the moment. Like, well, probably the last 5 years. Say at the
Yeah.
moment, like the last time I've ever actually sat. I always go through like notions of I would love to write a book. Like that's something
Hmm.
that I would love to do. But I also because I studied English to a point, but I never went far. I didn't go far enough with it. That I
Yeah.
actually think like it's been so long that my grammar's just not up to it. You know what I mean? Like my
Aye.
grammar's not good enough, and it's actually really hard. See if you don't practice writing, like, and you forget about like your adjectives and your verbs and what way you should actually put a
Yeah.
sentence together. Like if you don't study that long term, you lose it completely. It's like learning a language. If you don't speak it, you lose it.
hundred
So
percent.
like
Like, yeah.
I don't remember the way you're taught. I don't remember the exact way you should phrase a sentence. For example, like if someone said to you that girl's wearing a nice long black dress,
Yeah.
and you had to write that phrase down in a book,
You can just say that.
you can't. No, you have. There's a law to it. Like you can't use. I think it's something like you can't use like a descriptive adjective before an actual adjective. So like
Really?
you can't. Yeah, you can't use like. I think it's something like that. You can't use like long. It should be like it has to be what it is first. So it's definitely long, and then you describe it, or it might be the other way around. It's something like that. So it's
Yeah.
like so. We see whenever you're reading a book,
Yeah.
oh, it's so you're just used to reading it and blah blah blah. But see when the person's writing it, it's quite scientific the way
But
they use
you
the words.
But do you think every like person who's wrote a book, every novelist out there, regardless if it's like a fiction or non-fiction, or like like people write their autobiographies, do you think they always write that with the same sort of format, or do you reckon like some authors out there are so they go against the grain? Because you probably read more books than me, so you probably know this. But I would assume like there'd be almost like kind of filmmaking where you have the conventional filmmaker who makes the way a linear storyline, then you have fucking Christopher Nolan who just chops and changes everything to the point where it's not conventional, and it's probably if you had like a proper maybe like a professor in movies and like a lecture in like in university, they would be really uh against making a Christopher Nolan type movie or someone like that, or like even like a Dave Fincher type movie because they're so against the grain or against the norm. Is there people out there who write novels like that?
Well, everyone writes differently. Like I mean, you'll see grammar different in an American novelist to an English novelist, and a lot of people, some people are more clear and precise with their writing. Some people use too many words when they write, and they all have different styles, but they all
Yeah.
follow fundamental rules. You know what I mean? As in where they apply a comma, where they apply like how they structure a sentence, and see if you write how you speak. And so, say if I wrote something the way we're having a conversation right now, and you read it, it would sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? Like it has to be structured, and that's my problem. And see if you actually go and try to find out how to do this shit, and see if you like Google online to be like, test yourself how to get better at writing. It's really hard. It's really hard to follow. I think it's something it's classroom taught. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you learn it in school, and if you don't follow up on it, you lose it. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I something I could never do. To be fair, I was never really that good at English, in general. To be fair, so I just didn't like it. I was more towards maths and science, and I know you wanted to do that. You're going towards journalism at one point. I can like
Yeah.
remember you talking to me about that there, but we went to uni and did business instead.
I definitely think you decide what you're going to do too early, or I don't know. I just think you change so much. Do you know what I mean? Like the who
Yeah.
you were when you were like 15 is so different to who you are now.
Do you have
But
any
yet when you're,
regrets? Like in
yeah,
that
definitely,
sense?
yeah,
Like it's something like if you could go back, would you do it differently? Or would you still
yeah.
or maybe still do the same path but have be a bit more you're
No, I would. I
happy?
would do it completely. I could do it completely differently, and it's a weird thing to say because I've done okay. You know what I mean? Like got a good job. I've got a house. I'm kind of doing the right things
Yeah.
with my career choice, but it's not my passion. If you know what I mean? It was never like something. It was just, and it's probably like a lot of people like to do jobs that it gets them to a certain point. But
You
definitely,
do things
I
you're good
do.
at as well, aren't you? Like, because you knew
Yeah.
you're in during business studies when we were doing that A level, you kind of thought, okay, I'm actually okay at this here, and then a degree was the next step forward. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because you,
It was security, you know what I mean? It's like it was easy to get into. I knew I was going to get a good grade in my A levels.
yeah,
I knew I was going to get good grades in all my A levels because I put the work in.
yeah,
But I also knew that it was easy to get accepted in business in Jordanstown, and then it was easy. Like I thought, oh, I'm going to get a job out of that. But you never think at that age. You immediately think I'm going to do a course that gets me a job,
hmm
but you don't actually think is it going to get you a job you like?
yeah. You always
You know
think you
what I mean?
have so much, and not to say that we're because we're both only 27, like we're still quite young, but you always think at that age, well, I'll just do this and then I'll do my
Yeah,
passion later on. But then you
yeah,
realize once you get that degree, or once you put the work in for a degree, which is usually 3 to 4 years, then you're like, oh, I need a job now because I want to start buying more things. I want to move out of my mum and
yeah.
dad's house, and then, all right, now I want to actually buy my own house. And by the end of it, you're like, shit, I'm actually 30 years old and
Mhm.
I haven't done all these things I wanted to do in my 20s. And that's
But
why I
it's
always,
also you're
sorry, go
right, you're 100%. But it's also
on.
so hard because see when you are a kid, you're so oblivious. And even if you spoke to a child right now and told them this stuff, it's
Yeah.
still be like, fuck that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. So, pardon me, because it's like that's something. Because I didn't go to uni the way you did. I waited for a few years
Mhm.
because I was more clueless than you were. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I was okay at maths and okay at science to the point where like I enjoyed doing them subjects. I hated English. I hated all that shit. I loved art, so I did like double word art on school. So I remember at one point in my life, I had a choice. I could have gotten had enough A levels to go into art school to do animation. But then I was like, I always thought like that's amazing. That gives me a career in film or get a career in some sort of media. But then I thought to myself like, how many jobs is there? Like, I felt like a fucking
Yeah,
old man thinking that there. Like, your parents always say to you like, oh, is
yeah,
there going to be a job in that there? And I literally just made the conscious decision to go into become an engineer instead. And I love being an engineer. I love the idea of actually doing this job. But part of me does look back at it and think, should I have just went for it? Because as you
yeah,
say, you only have one life. You may as well do something you love. But I really enjoy doing this here. But so I'm like, am I just enjoying it because it is so stable
yeah.
rather than actually doing
I
it
don't
because
know.
I love
It's a
it? Well,
hard
you've been in your career now for way longer than I've been in my career.
about 8 years, yeah.
I've been in my career just over a year now. So I'm like, I'm only a year in, and I'm like, am I lying to myself? Like Steven's done it for 8 years now, so he knows exactly that he does have regrets. Am I gonna be like that in like 7 years'
Yeah.
time?
But it's not to say that I don't actually enjoy what I do because I do.
Yeah,
Like I'm also in a good position where I do enjoy where I work and like I'm progressing and I'm learning and I'm moving to next like in your career like I'm now getting past the stage where I'm not at the start of my journey, you know what I mean? I'm now
yeah,
moving into a more senior position.
yeah.
I'm getting older. But I just think it's interesting the way like how different like it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, like how different you view the way you view the world changes so much. Like your
hmm
perspective on anything, mate, politics, anything. See,
Music,
whenever you're
movies.
18, music, everything. See, when you're 18, you think completely different to how you
Yeah,
think when you're 28. See, when you're,
yeah,
and I do think it levels off. I think whenever you get into your 30s, late 30s, you start to become like a more rounded person. You start to become like your life's more set, and you probably hold the same values and views from like your early 30s to the rest of your life.
yeah.
But at these early stages of life, we haven't got a fucking clue. Even
You,
10 years ago, we haven't got a
you,
clue. Like,
you're basically just trying to figure out what you like,
yeah,
and like that's what I realized. And you're so gun ho on like what you think you is important in life. Like I always thought, like fucking Blink-182 and Star Wars. They're the two more most. I'm on you. Them three things, or even to this day, I still love them three things. But if I look at myself 10 years ago, and what I was like this. I'm still quite aggro, like, but like I used to be more aggro to the point where like no one was, everyone was wrong apart from me. So Star Wars
Yeah,
was the best thing ever made. So if anyone argued that there, I was always so like fucking angry about it. Same
yeah,
as football and same as like music as well. Now I got to the point where I still love all them things, but I
yeah,
accept the idea that people don't like them. I'm like, all right,
yeah.
happy days. That's good that you don't like football. Your Saturdays must be boring as fuck. But here, it's okay. It's okay. You
But
know what I mean? Like,
I 100% agree. But I'm also trying to apply that because also, obviously, we speak politics sometimes, but I don't really. I've learned that I know very little about some things,
yeah,
and and I know quite a lot about other things. But I also, I'm trying to accept that there are different viewpoints on
yeah,
many different issues. Everyone goes to different issues from a different background and a different experience. So
yeah.
because all I can do is perceive the world how I want to perceive the world and what I've experienced. But I have no right to get angry because someone else has a different view. And I think as well, we watch, like, I know you watch a lot of debates online and shit. And I think the problem with those sort of debates is they're not actually trying to get to any sort of answer. They're just trying to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. Whereas,
Yeah.
see, if you listen to debates on like religion, for example, right, which is a good thing to listen to a debate on, you usually have two like educated people. One's maybe an atheist and one believes in God, but they're actually just having a conversation to try to get answers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They're trying to learn from each other. They're trying to educate each other. But if you watch a debate on like socialism versus capitalism, it's just murder. It's like, what
Yeah.
is this? You know what I mean? And I think the older I get, the more I'm just trying to accept that people just have different outlooks on the world, and that's okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You have your own beliefs, but you don't need to always imprint them on others. You know?
Yeah. You don't need to force your beliefs down someone's throat. And that's why
Yeah.
I've always been like really like I was a point where well, we were both brought up obviously religious
Mhm.
and like both Catholic and stuff. But then I got to the point where like I felt that it was getting shoved down my throat. And because of
Yeah.
that there, I became really anti it. Like I
Yeah.
started pushing my anti Christianity or anti religious views
Yeah.
on the people. Then I realized then I get to the point where especially recently, last few years, where I'm like when I used to watch these debates about like, like I can't remember who called the guy, who called the really famous atheist. He writes
Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. I just watched his debates. I got to the point where I felt it was quite sad, like the way the idea, like he was so anti-religious religion that he was trying to make other people unhappy about it. Then I thought,
Mhm.
like, as long as that person isn't shoving their religious beliefs down my throat to the point where, like, oh, you shouldn't do this on certain days, you shouldn't drink alcohol and all, to like kind of going against what I like to do.
Mhm.
If you don't do that, I'm happy enough with you. Because I have friends who are, I have a Muslim friend. I have obviously friends who are real Catholics,
Mhm.
Protestants, and also atheists. And there's no real difference in them in terms of like how we talk to each other. But
Yeah.
if you are this religious nut job where you want to force your religious down me, say like I'm going to hell because I don't know,
Yeah. But then
mo
it's the same
moved
on the
out with
other
a
side.
girlfriend
Yeah.
before. Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point. Because I felt that they were shoving it down my throat. I felt it was okay for me to shove it down other people's
Yeah.
throat, and then people I was shoving down my
You're doing the same
anti-religion
thing.
view,
Yeah.
they didn't do it to me. So I'm like, what am I doing this for? I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I don't believe in God and stuff. I don't believe in really. Hopefully there is something after life, but I don't believe in it. But again, I'm not gonna fucking argue it because I don't know. And
Yeah.
if I look at anything, like if I look at what topic do I know a lot about, I would probably say probably football and movies.
Mhm.
And football, I am wrong about football probably
Yeah.
90% of the time. They probably wrong about it. So if I'm wrong about the thing I know a lot about, I'm going to be wrong about the things I don't know. I know nothing about.
Yeah, and I agree. And with the religious thing and any sort of thing, it's like I want to live in like a free society. You know what I mean? I want to have my ideas and opinions, and I'm not saying, yeah, I'm welcome to be challenged. But if someone else perceives the world in a different way to me, that's okay. But
Hmm.
where I have a problem is you don't get to tell me how I should perceive the world. Like you
Yeah,
do not get to tell me that I'm wrong about something like this. If it's faith, if it's politics, if it's whatever, it's like if I came to a rational conclusion myself, like if you're the person who's trying to disprove that, you're the dickhead. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
You're the wanker. Like you're the one that's not happy in your life. Like I could be quite content with my beliefs, but
yeah.
it's you that's going out of your way to try to get me around to your way of thinking, and it's like I don't know. I just I'd rather we lived in, and I think we do to a certain extent,
I think we
like
do.
a society where we just allow people to have their beliefs, you know.
And it comes in all forms from every area of the political spectrum, and that's annoys me about it. People always try to throw it through all of these social justice wars are causing cancel culture. No, cancel culture is done from either side, from the right and the left. And like even when feminism came into in play and all too, there's people pushing back on feminism and all too. Why the
Mhm.
like you're pushing back on women wanting the same rights as men? Like why the fuck? You know what I mean? So if people push back on like blacks in America wanting equal rights. People push back on feminism, women wanting equal rights. They're going to push back on anything else. You know what I mean? And I've always said to you before, in regards to cancel culture, I just don't want to be on the wrong side of history. I don't want to look back in like 10 years' time going, fuck, we did a podcast and I argued that this TV show shouldn't be cancelled. But now, 10 years later, we're all in agreement that it should be cancelled. So I'm just going to sit back. If a TV show is said to be sexist or racist, whereas people, which I am not, 'cause I'm not a woman, I'm not a homosexual, I'm not a black person. If they then three people and then people think something's offensive, I'm not getting involved in it because I don't know how they feel. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's what I always want to. I want to be in the right side of history. I don't want to.
I
I want
just
to. If I
I
look
just
back
think
in like
it's
the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, where would I have been? I'm hope the fucking God I was on his side.
But
Like
then I
you
would
know,
just say I think a lot of it's just a waste of energy. That's my only issue with cancel culture is like we've got so many issues in the world, and we're talking about an episode of Friends or South Park. It's like
yeah, but
like
that's a bad thing about cancel culture. People boil it down to the minute, smallest thing about Friends, an episode of Friends, but it's obviously a bigger thing than that. There, it's all about actually like better representation and media and stuff and all too, and that's how it really has a negative effect on people in society. And people
but you
bring
can
it down.
also make the argument that it goes too far. Like like there that you
Yeah,
have to make
well,
like
I
I mean
go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's a perfectly reasonable position to take examples and be like, well, I think I agree with what you're trying to do here, but I think this example you've went too far.
But again,
Like, and we can all name examples where we think, is this worth our time? You know what I mean?
I know, but then it comes down to like where are you in this like this topic of conversation? Like, are you speaking from the person who is offended? Are you speaking from the person who's just enjoying a TV show? And we've had this discussion before. I don't think Friends is offensive personally, but
Mhm.
again, the people who find it offensive are people like African Americans. Like when you really when you watch Friends, there's no actual black people in the show until till like the last season, and it probably is like homophobic, and it probably is like knowing like it probably paints women in a bad light. But again, I'm not any of them people, so I can't see that. So I think it's fine. So if they think it's bad, then that's their opinion. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm not going to
Yeah, and
argue.
I'm not saying that you can't think that things are bad,
Yeah,
but I just again, it's whenever your perception, it goes back to that, your perception, you're telling me how I should perceive the world.
yeah.
Like that's the issue. That's the issue that I have. I have no problem with you believing that what you want to believe in, and if you have strong beliefs in a certain thing, that's fine. I will never ever argue against you to be like you shouldn't feel this way. But it's when you're telling me how I should feel. That's whenever you're actually stepping on my toes.
But then, no, I don't think cancel culture is about that. I think cancel culture is just basically saying, well, do you know this TV show which you didn't notice is actually sexist? And then all these men are like, well, no, it's not sexist. You're like, well, now you're telling me, now it's the opposite. It's like you're trying to tell them that you shouldn't be find this offensive when they do fit no that way. So it's kind of like works both ways. And I think it's getting to the point where we need to push back things. Obviously, cancel culture has probably went too far in certain aspects, but I think in other areas, it's gone hasn't gone far enough. I think. So it's sometimes it's targeted at the wrong people or in the wrong
Mhm.
medias, if that makes sense. But I do think
Yeah,
it's a lot
I
of
think
good,
a
a lot
lot
of
of it
good
is
stuff.
like there's just a lot of there might be good that comes out of some things. Like I can't, I think you can probably give me examples of things that have been cancelled for the right reason, and
Yeah,
then you
like
could also look
blackface.
at articles. Like you could also look at articles. Like there was an article the other day that Anne Hathaway came out and apologized because of
Yeah,
one of her like
yeah,
she had three fingers, but she's playing a witch,
yeah.
and
I
it's
know.
like
I didn't get that. Yeah,
stuff like that. It's like I feel like stuff like that is a bit of a waste of energy.
yeah.
But that's my opinion. That's
But
my
that's
view on it.
I don't think that's cancel culture. That's outrage culture. People can be
Yeah.
outraged about anything. It's like even when you talk about the whole a good example from the because people always think cancel culture is so one sided. It's more to the left. It's equal on both sides. A good example of this here is like look at Palestine, Israel. You know what I mean? You can't talk about Palestine and Israel on TV. Like you can't talk about Palestine on TV, regardless what you believe. Why can't you talk about a country? There's certain TV stations will not allow to show the Palestinian flag on TV. I'm not pro Palestine or pro Israel. I'm pro human justice. And if I see that people are getting murdered in a certain country, I'm going to support the people who are getting fucking murdered that way. But they've created this narrative where you can't talk about that there. So that's obviously come from the right. But again, that people don't see that as cancel culture. If you meant like Coldplay posted a song about Palestine a couple of years ago, and their Facebook was like banned or some shit like that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
But that does happen. Like it does. You're right, and it
yes,
happens.
that's
It
what I
happens
mean.
all the time. It even happens whenever there's loads of examples, mate. I
Mm,
guess this podcast isn't really supposed to be about that, but I do think there is an issue at the moment with like a lot of big tech firms and like going through and taking people's Facebooks off. Like they're fact checking a lot of stuff, and some I'll be honest, some things do need fact check because some people are
mm,
just telling lies, right?
yeah,
But also, you are getting into the realm where sometimes you're just fact checking an opinion.
yeah,
I'm like, you can't fact check an opinion. It's like that's someone's opinion and you're censoring it. It's like but they're not actually saying this is a fact. They're saying how they feel,
yeah.
but
But if
that's getting
they're,
censored. And I'm like,
yeah, I
you know
know.
what I mean?
But
So that's why I'm like, there's just muddy. Like, it's muddy. All of it's muddy. Like
yeah,
I think the reason Celtic culture is so prevalent and so strong is because it's not clear. It's the same as like there's so many debates. Like anything, take abortion for example, right? There's
yeah,
so many debates that you can have. You're a fool if you think it's clear. Like it's obviously grey. All of it's
yeah.
grey. That's why
I
we're
know.
talking about it. You
And
know what I
that's
mean?
what and that's what frustrates me because I would consider myself on the left, and people will think, oh, like, and we've had arguments, so we've disagreed before about cancel culture and all too. But look at something like blackface, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That getting banned from TV and banned from like movies and stuff is a product of cancel culture, and we would both agree that's a really good thing. That's one example of many. You know what I mean? The way like people are like represented on TV, like the way like TV shows all like in movies, for example, like the black guy was always the bad guy, always a drug dealer and all too. No shit like that there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like almost a form of cancel culture that we're pointing a finger going, we need to be more aware of this shit. We need to be more aware of the negative implications that this
Mm-hmm.
is having on society. And it is like there's studies that have been shown that you must have better representation in media. You need to have
Yeah.
more women presenters, you need more trans presenters, more black presenters on TV. Because if you see someone in that position, that's going to reflect better in society. And they've done
Yeah.
studies in like Harvard, Yale, and this proves this here. So for
Yeah.
me,
Well,
cancel
I agree,
culture,
but
yeah, yeah,
I just think it's a lot of the times with with sort of stuff is you can come to an agreement, but you can then come to a disagreement on how you actually implement your ideas.
yeah.
Because if you put like whenever you could come to the conclusion that we need more representation of X, okay, in order to do that, we then have to discriminate against Y,
Yeah.
and then it becomes muddy, and
Yeah.
and that's why there's a debate. Like there's a
Mhm.
debate because and it's not a bad conversation, but like in order to get to the end goal, you're going to step on someone's toes.
For me, it's always been the idea that because we always, if you look back in society, obviously you look at like America and UK, and obviously UK, especially England, like colonizing the whole world and basically ravaging these countries, especially India, Asia, Africa, all this shit, and even America to a certain degree, the native population. So you have this white superiority complex they've had. You know what I mean? So when you get into modern society, say the last 100 years, you got pushbacks. Obviously, you got like obviously the end of slavery, you had the end of Jim Crow, all that shit. There's so much shit going on in the world. That's the main things we kind of talked about. But so when you get to the point where you have like minorities, like someone who's from Hispanic, African descent, who are actually in these positions of power, like there's someone like AOC, for example, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Like she's something. I think she's a House
I know
representative
who she is. Yeah.
in New York. Like I think she's amazing, but a lot of her things people say are too extreme, which I don't think they are. But for example, let's say they are too extreme. But like if you've always say, let's just take it like say it's a left and right. If you say if you stopped anything from the left, any progressive fucking movements, any progressive talks from the left, regardless of what it was, if it's something really small like black people having equal rights, they push back on that there. Why the fuck not? Would you not go to the fucking extreme and do like what she's doing with the Green New Deal? Everyone's trying to say, oh, it's too extreme. She's pushing for this Green New Deal thing. And it goes, okay, maybe it is extreme, but I'd rather her push for this extreme and then we'll just do one or two things rather than go try to push for something so small and it get rejected. You know what I mean? So I think it's because people on the left now are getting so extreme in terms of cancel culture because they never were taken seriously in over the past 100, 200 years. I think so. You may as well just be a fucking massive socialist and massive communist because if you have some sort of progressive left wing ideas, they're gonna call you that there anyway. So you may as well just go fucking gun hole and go, I fuck, I'm a communist now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's what I always think. You see, you may as
But
well
I
be
think it
extreme.
depends how you view the right, though. That's
Yeah. No,
like
I'm not
that.
saying me. Sorry, I'm just thinking.
No, I
Sorry.
mean in general. I just mean
Yeah.
in general. It's like the problem is people on the left view people on the right as racist, and people on the left view people on the right view people on the left as immature. Like I
Uh-huh.
would probably go as far as say people like they view. I mean, it's not uncommon for people to have left wing views to be quite young.
Yeah.
I mean, even AOC is quite young. She's quite a young person.
Yeah.
And we've already established in this conversation that as you get older, your views can change on things. And I'm not necessarily saying her views will change,
But
but
again, it does.
your outlook in the world can change.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Maybe you need that sort of immature mindset because sometimes we try to overcomplicate politics and any sort of political debate to the point where I was like, oh, it's so much multifaceted. Why, I always feel the left always have real simple ideas and probably also immature. I was like, sometimes then, why can't America just do a universal healthcare? Why can't there be less people in prison? Why can't there be a reform and the war on drugs and all that? Why can't we just put more money in the NHS? Why can't we just give more social housing to people and all that? Why not? Because there's so much economic politics there is involved. You mean
Hmm.
there's you just don't want to do it. And that's what it goes down to. When people in politics, especially when you're a career politician, you're just trying to keep your job. Back in the day, you
Yeah.
never were a career politician. You joined politics for 4 or 5 years, and that was it. You left. You served your term. But now everyone's a career politician, where they're a politician from their early 20s right up to their fucking 80. So they need money. Like look at fucking like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, the amount of money they've made outside of politics
Hmm.
in terms of outside of actually being like a representative is fucking ridiculous. They're like billionaires. How the fuck could they become billionaires and the salary for an American president's only like 100 grand a year? Only 100 grand
I
a
think
year.
you have to keep in mind like America's a different animal, and it's hard for us to understand. I think that's my
It happens
opinion.
here as well, though. Do you think
No,
fucking
but
Boris Johnson not doing these wee talks and these private talks,
but
getting
like
paid
I
off
think
100
I think
grand?
a conservative. No, I just mean in general, like political outlooks. A conservative in England is very different to a conservative in America
Oh yeah, because like
because
Bernie
it's very different.
Sanders, if he came to UK politics, he would probably be centre, maybe
Yeah.
left of
So
centre.
so then, yeah, also have to understand that a vast majority of Americans, whether you agree or disagree, they have a certain outlook on life. It's different to what our understanding of what life should be. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Americans believe in liberty and freedom, and they don't want to be in a situation where yeah, the government owns them and they just live there. That's how they view the world. Like they view it, we will govern ourselves. Like I will govern my family, my mom, my dad. That's how we govern. But
Yeah, no,
that you can disagree with that, mate. But
yeah,
that's a Republican belief. A conservative belief is that they are self-governed. Yes, there's laws. Yes, we will follow, but we do not want a big government because we believe we are our own government. Like we're free. We're free thinking people. We do not want to be controlled by the government, and
but
we can we can look at that and see because we grew up in a society that has more social norms than what they have.
yeah,
Like you have to get into that mindset. Like that's how they think,
but
and it's
again,
not necessarily wrong because it's
yeah,
their
no.
experience on life. Like
But for me, I've always questioned the idea. Yeah, that's their belief, but is that because they're told this belief? And they've never seen, you look at America, they've never been a socialist society. They've never had really
no.
socialist norms in the degree that we've had it here. So
Hmm.
imagine they've had it. I always say, you've tried the right wing conservative idea in America. You've tried the Republican platform, the capitalism mantra in America. You've never tried the socialist idea. You know the capitalism works a certain degree, works for the some, doesn't work for all. Why don't you just try socialist ideas just for 48 years? Just try it to see what happens and see how your society difference. That's all I've always thought,
But what if it didn't work?
there you go. Then you can say you tried it. But people like AOC, Bernie Sanders, people like that there are going to say, well, you haven't tried it, you don't know it doesn't work. And that's the argument for me. You haven't tried it. If I'm trying to fix something, I'm trying to fix a computer or fix something in my house, and I've tried X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to go. I won't try X, Y, and Z again. You go, what about ABC? Or AOC. Bah! You know
But
what I mean?
I just don't think that is at all feasible, mate. I think that's like,
What's not
I
feasible?
mean, what we're asking, right? 72 million people voted for Trump. It's for
Yeah.
them who
Out
a
of
lot of
400
people,
million, though, like
but
a
a
very
lot,
small
yeah,
population actually voted for him. When you think
no,
about it.
right, but that doesn't matter because you still voted, right?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
like, I mean, anyone could have voted. Like they've made a decision, so
Well, they made it
therefore
hard.
you have to assume, right? You have to assume that a lot of Americans do not want to change the way they live. They're happy
Yeah,
with the way they live,
but
and
then,
so to listen to someone going, actually, I'm a better person than you. I've got more moral standards. You need to change how you're thinking. They were sitting there going, no, I'm happy with my life and my
well,
political outlook and how I am living.
but
So why would I change?
what about the majority though?
What
So
do you mean?
so more people vote. Almost 4 million, over 4 million people voted for Biden, and there's
Yeah,
obviously 200 million people who didn't even vote. So, and a vast majority of them are probably would be you people, but you obviously can't tell it, but obviously they would say it's probably more left wing people, younger people, not too. So the vast majority probably do want change. So
but
you're saying,
Joe Biden is not changed. Joe Biden has been getting elected for 50 years.
yeah, well, he's not being
So
a president of the United
the
States.
reason no, but he's been in positions of power for 50 years. I guarantee you, his view outlook on politics probably isn't that much different than a Republican Party candidate because
Mm,
America's
yeah,
not going to change. And there's a reason why Bernie Sanders isn't getting pushed forward by the Democrats because they actually don't want that either.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know what I
But
mean?
what's I mean? Like, so the basically but we're not talking about the actual party. We're talking about the people itself. You know what I mean? So let's
Mhm.
see. Overwhelming majority of people in America want socialized healthcare. Over like 70% of people want it. Okay, people want to legal. Over 80% want the legalization of marijuana, which is obviously coming because the last states
Mhm.
have it. I think 70% want like a reform of the prison system and the drugs, the war on drugs, but yet it doesn't happen. So we're not.
How do you know all that though?
I mean, how I know that? How I know it's
How
not
do you know
happening?
that? No, how do
But
you
that's
know?
just released public. That's released public statistics from
So
like
what is that though? Like, is that how many people took part in that survey? How many? Like, what is that? Is that
I don't know how they
how do
did
you know
it.
that?
Yeah, it was released on. I can't remember what thing I was watching. I think it was on Sam Cedar. He released it, not to, and they don't release
So
like
I would
facts.
say
But
if
they don't release.
74 million, I would say if 74 million people are wanting Biden for these rules for certain reasons, and 72 million want Trump, we can't say that 70% of the population want certain things if
No, but
a lot of them are voting
you're
for Trump.
only 60% of the population voted, so there's still 40%
So,
didn't vote.
but are you suggesting that everyone else, like the 100% of the population, took part in these surveys?
No, I'm not saying that there, but you're saying like, well, we gotta accept that
I'm
there's
just saying you
70.
don't know.
Yeah, oh, I know. I'm saying I don't know, but you're almost feeling like you do know that these
I
70.
don't. I'm just saying, like, you can't make an argument that 70% of Americans want to do this,
No,
and also
but
make an
your
argument that
argument, your argument is so 70% people voted for Trump, so therefore they don't want to change, and therefore they shouldn't have to change. I said, what happens if an overwhelming majority do want change? And you said, well, where's your facts not there? I was like, but I'm just saying, what happens? And I did give you facts that actually are released from the government statistics. So I don't know where they came
but
from, but they're
all I'm asking you is, out of the facts that you're saying now to back up your argument,
I'm not
we
backing
don't.
up. I'm not backing up an
No, no.
argument.
But I'm just saying,
I'm just
like,
saying, like,
I'm
but
just saying, you can't say 70% of Americans want
oh,
healthcare
I'm
without
not.
actually knowing that. You know what I mean?
No,
That's all I'm
but
saying.
you're saying 70% of people voted Trump, so therefore we should respect their decision. And all I responded to that was, what happens if majority of people do want change? Should we not respect the majority of people? Because majority of people did vote for Biden, and he is seen as a progressive person. He wants to keep Medicare, he wants to keep Obamacare and stuff. So therefore, that's still a socialized medicine. Obviously, he's going to keep the privatization of healthcare in America, but he still wants a progressive, free or reduced healthcare system. So therefore, why are we catering to the minority when the majority want this progressive change? You know what I mean?
But
That's what I said. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if I follow because Biden is not the president yet. So how can we
oh
say
my
that it's
god,
no,
he's the
no, no, no?
president.
Listen, no, no.
Come
But
on.
he's not the president because you don't become the president until January. Right?
Yeah, wait.
That's all. That's the only point I'm saying. Right. So he's not the
That's
president
not.
yet, but
He's
we're
gonna be
already
president.
determined. Yeah, of course he is. Right.
Yeah.
But we're already determined. So you're saying we should, but we don't know if he's going to do that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, exactly. But that's what he's running on. Sorry, that's what
Yeah.
he ran
So
on. That's what he was voted in for. But that
okay,
he ran
but
on this
then
one through. He ran
so
on like
how can you suggest that it's not going to happen? So you're saying
no,
if most
no,
people want,
no.
so it might happen then.
Yeah, all I'm doing was responding back to the idea that you said, like, well, 70 people voted for Trump, so we should respect the ideas. And my thing is, well, technically, if you're just picking out on like the
Mhm.
who voted, because obviously only
Yeah.
60% of people voted, majority of people voted for Biden. So therefore, why should we not just go for them? Is that not do you not?
Yeah, but I do agree with that. But this is what
Yeah,
I'm saying, mate. Listen to me for 2 seconds, because I think we're just getting confused in what we're saying here, right? All I'm saying, you're saying that most people want this, this, and this, and most people have voted for Biden,
yeah.
and that's not happening. But what I'm saying is, well, Biden's becoming the president in January, so how can we say it's not happening?
Oh yeah, but
Because
I mean,
it could,
up to this
it might
point.
happen. It might happen.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm just speaking of now. I mean,
But why would it happen if Joe Biden's just been elected? How that's what I don't understand. Like,
well,
how would you expect it to happen before he's been elected?
wait, well, okay, what are you
If
on
we're
about?
under a Trump, you're under a Trump presidency.
So what are you on? Okay, let's go back to why did you bring up saying like 70% of people voted Trump, so we should respect their beliefs and their ideas. And all I said was, well, we should respect the other side's idea because the majority of
No,
people voted for it. That's all I said. That's all my response was. Z.
yeah,
Yeah, that's all. And you started saying, "Oh, where's these proof?" I was like, "Well,
no,
74%."
no. Mate, that's not. It's not the conversation we just had.
This is
All
what
I'm
you
saying
asked
is,
me for stats, and I said,
listen
like,
to me.
where's your
Yeah,
facts? And I said, well, the government statistics say this here. I'm not going to fucking chase them up. If they've released these as government statistics, I assume they're quite accurate. I'm sure they polled a lot of people to the point where they can say 70% of people want Medicare or socialized healthcare. I don't know what is like a norm. Do you need to fucking poll 100,000 people or 10,000 people? Well,
hmm
obviously, you know how statistics work. You can't fucking ask every single person, but you do
yeah. Of
you,
course you
do-
can.
you do a set number of people, and that represents the population. That's how
But the
statistics
reason that
works.
you're bringing up those stats is to say,
Did
well,
you ask me?
70% of people want this, and it hasn't happened. Why?
Yeah, I know because you.
And my argument is, well, first of all, we don't know the validity of the stats, but secondly, Biden
They're
has just
government
been elected.
statistics. Well, all my argument was like we don't always just because the population wants something does, and even though that, like as you said, we need to respect the 70 million people who voted for Trump. And I said, why do we not respect the people who wanted change, who want a progressive socialized healthcare or like shit like that there, or like
But where's your evidence that that's not being respected? That's my point. Because Biden has just become president. You're almost talking as if, well, 70 some more people
Oh,
voted for
sorry. Oh,
Biden, and
sorry.
this
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
happen.
Oh, sorry. These statistics aren't just brand new, Stephen. These statistics have been like it was. I think it's gone up every year for the last 10 years. It was like 50% under Obama, and that's when up to almost 70% of people
But
want.
then why did people vote for Donald Trump?
What? I don't know. You asked me that
So
for.
right, if most people want this, this, and this, but they
Yeah,
know having Donald Trump as a president is not going to get them this, this, and this, then why are they voting that way?
I don't think it's the same people. Like I think a lot of other people are. It's people who don't want to probably are voting for Trump.
But but then should we not respect that over the last 4 years? That's what I don't understand.
Exactly,
I don't.
but yeah, no, I don't. It was you brought up the point that we should respect the people who voted for Trump because
Yeah,
that's our ideas. And I said, well, it should work both ways. We should respect the people who
yeah,
voted for
and
Trump.
I agree with that. But
That's all I said.
but you're
That's all
but
I
you're
said.
but like my only reason why I'm talking about this is because you're suggesting that like the majority of American people want a certain thing and it's not happening.
Well,
Why
it's
is
based on
that? And I would say,
it's based on statistics, Stephen. I can't.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
but my argument against it,
I think
but
we're
my
at
argument
odds
against that
every.
was, well, I know I understand that, mate. But my argument against that was, well, if so many Americans wanted this, why did they vote for a party that's not going to give them that? Then
Well,
like
then
that's why.
well, we've had this discussion before. If you go to like American politics, they make it really tough for people to actually vote that way. So like they close certain voting booths in certain areas, typically like per areas where they can't vote. They change the voter ID law. We need certain IDs to actually vote now. If you go to prison, you can't vote. So
Hmm.
and obviously the prison system have affected the obviously the African American communities more. so it's the poor communities more. So more people in the poor communities can't even vote. So that's the reason that they're. And of course, something that I've obviously talked about before. I think a lot of people feel so disillusioned with politics when you have someone like Obama, who was meant to be quite progressive and stuff, but when he got an actual he became the leader of the free world or the leader of fucking America. He didn't really do that much in terms of what he planned to do. He sent more troops to Iraq and Afghanistan. He kind of
Bombed the
released.
life out of Syria.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, he tried to do a lot of internal. He tried to release Obamacare. He tried to do a bit more, gun control and shit and all too. But what the fuck's this on my screen? But like, you know what I mean? So maybe I don't know which way is it. Was it him a fault or was it just the system that's broken in America? Because you have like the Senate, you have all this shit. There's so much things going on. I don't know how American politics actually works. What do you need to do to actually push a law through? I thought if you're the president of America, you have the fucking say. But I feel like you don't have the say. So it's a broken system. But again, it doesn't represent the people.
It's a system that doesn't allow a dictatorship, basically.
Yeah,
that's why it's set up for.
But it's also like it's the two-party state. So if a party on the right say they want to really socialize healthcare and stuff and all too, and then the party on the left or whatever party, they can just block it in the Senate. Mm-hmm. So it's so weird because like the Democrats are going to own obviously be in the White House, but then the Republicans are going to own the Senate. I'm like,
yeah,
that's so confusing to me. That's just so fucking backward. I'm like, what the fuck? How you meant to do any sort of change if you?
But it's because you're representing so many people. That's why it's not like you have to have representation.
Exactly. You need better representation. I always say you need to allow everyone needs the right to vote, regardless if you broke the law in the past. You need to be able to vote. And if you're looking at the American Constitution, that's one of the fucking things in the American Constitution, the right to vote. People are so fucking adamant. Oh, we need the right to bear arms. We need all these guns and all too. It's fair enough. I'm not American. I don't give a shit about guns, so I'm going to stand back from that there. But if you are like fighting for that, a law in the Constitution, but you're not fighting for like the right to vote for people who actually committed a drug crime or some shit or have marijuana. You can't vote. What the fuck? You can't vote for the rest of your life. Like that is so backward to me. I always said, I think voting needs to be made easier. They need to do like a national bank holiday or some shit. Everyone gets a day off work and they can vote. You know, that way. That's what
I also do agree that a lot of people. I was watching a video the other day, and it was actually just like some.
This is a great movie, by the way, isn't it?
I know. But it was just about like this guy was saying, I can't remember what he was reacting to. It was some song or whatever, but the song must have been political. And he was an American fella, and he was just like, I don't vote. And says, I'll never vote. I refuse to vote. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, the reason why I don't vote is because it's so goddamn toxic that if I say a party that I agree with, friends will stop talking to me. I'll lose family members over this shit. So he's like, why should I vote? I'm just staying well away from that because I do not. It's a waste of my energy. Yeah. And I was like, a lot of people feel that way, and it's. I think that the media plays a part in that, but I also think the way we view politics and the world plays so much part in that because people get so angry if you've got a different view, and it's like this is ridiculous. This is actually ridiculous, and that's why I think a lot of people don't vote because they don't want the aggro.
Yeah, as I said, people feel so disillusioned with politics, especially we have a two-party state. You have like, you know, you have like imagine being in America. I think this time, if I was in America, I would have voted obviously Joe Biden because Trump's a fucking idiot. But again, see during the 2016 election, Hillary and Trump, man, I didn't know who I would have voted for, like properly. You know what I mean?
For me, I think it depends. So I can't say who I would have voted for because
of course, but like obviously put yourself in that position. You go, okay, if I was an American, who would I vote for? And
I get that, but it's deeper than that because if you were an American living in New York in a fucking fancy apartment in a cosmopolitan area, you probably are going to vote Democrat. But if you were an American who lives in Texas, who owns his own business, who's just on the breadline, who's trying to provide for his family, you probably are going to vote Trump. So it's.
Why vote Trump? It's harder. You say on the bread? You're like,
no, because you believe in lesser tax. You don't believe in a bigger government. You know that.
But it's like lesser tax.
That's why people vote.
Yeah.
No, but that's why people vote. Like, mate, rich people are smart, mate. There's a reason why rich people don't pay tax, because
Yeah,
they're
I
fucking
know.
smart and they
And
get away with it. That shit trickles down to us.
I
Do you know what I
know.
mean?
We're fucking idiots.
So
That's what people think. People think, Trump's is going to cut tax. Yeah, it's cutting tax for the rich, not for the fucking poor. You're fucked, by the way. It's a fucking bad thing. People don't read into it. People just assume cutting tax, that's good. But then you read the actual fine line, his policies. They don't, over 10 years, you actually, people who earn like less than 50 grand a year, which in America, that's really bad, supposedly. Fuck, here would be amazing. You actually pay more tax. So it's like, why are people voting? Why are the lower working class people voting for Trump too? I didn't
I
get
think
that.
it's to
Especially
do with it is to do with tax, and it's to do with values, and it's probably to do with religion. Is probably a big part, like, because
the most
like
unreligious person in the world too, Trump.
no, but like he has conservative values, if you know what I mean. Like, as in he's a Republican, even though he was Democrat originally, wasn't
He's a Democrat. Yeah, he just became
he? Yeah.
Republican for the run because, as he
hmm
said, if you're going to run for presidency, run under the Republican
But I
Party
think
because then
what
idiots
we're doing
believe
at the minute, mate,
everything.
I think what we're doing at the minute is part of a problem too, because we're
What for?
failing to understand why some people would vote for Donald Trump.
No, my issue was that people can vote for Trump if they want to. I don't give a fuck. I'm not American. I don't actually don't give a shit. But when people say, I find it's really silly when people go, we vote for Trump because we don't want to pay more tax. I'm like, yeah, if you're a rich person, yes, spot on. Then you're just
Mhm.
being selfish. But then if you're not selfish, but you're voting for your own agenda. But like
I
if
think
you're
everyone votes for their own
it,
agenda.
that's why I think it's wrong. I don't think people should. We've had an argument about this before. I disagree with that. But again, if you're if you're a poor person in America and you're voting for Trump because you think you're going to be paying less tax, then you're an idiot. Then because you will pay more tax eventually over a 10-year span, you will pay more tax. Yeah, next to
I don't know if I know enough about that to
I just know
agree.
because I watched this channel and they break down the policies and stuff, and they basically say over 10 years you will pay more tax. But next 2 or 3 years, something you pay less tax, but over 10 years you pay more tax. So it's kind of like people like say in the whole Bernie Sanders was doing the whole socialized healthcare. People are like, oh, we're paying more money in tax. He's like, yeah, but you're going to be paying less in premiums and less in actually in like health insurance. Could be no health insurance, you're paying more tax. So actually balance that you're paying less money. But people think more tax is bad, but then you're actually paying less in health insurance. You're paying less overall that way. It's how like that's how I think the media need to have like they need to like represent the policies better and be a bit more
Yeah,
neutral.
it needs to be about policies. It's never even about policies. They don't even talk about it. They just talk about he's a racist. This person's a socialist. That's all they say.
Exactly, and all too. I know that's a bad thing,
It's
isn't it?
fucking crazy. It's like they just paint Joe Biden is now a socialist.
I
You
know.
probably don't even know what it means.
I know he's not a
Like
socialist whatsoever.
Joe
He's so
Biden is
center.
Joe Biden is a really religious Catholic.
Hmm.
That's what he is. Like, he's a Catholic.
Sports Celtic.
He has ties in Ireland. He
Yeah.
he himself is actually he's more against some of the Democratic policies than Republican policies, because
Yeah,
like
I know.
comes to abortion and stuff, he would actually be against abortion, but that doesn't suit the current trend of the party. So he's like, yeah, and it's like you're like be your own person. You know what I mean?
But you can't though, because you're the leader of that party. You need to represent the majority of that party. Majority party
hmm
say there's abortion, they're all for abortion. You can't say, well, majority of my party are for abortion. I'm going to be against it. It's kind of like a lot
But
of
that's
things.
the problem I think Corbyn had, because
Yeah,
everyone
he,
knew what he believed, and he
yeah,
couldn't come out and say it, and then
yeah.
it's like
Because he
it
what?
didn't pay off for him down the road. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I know. He should have just been, as I said, fuck it, just be the extreme. Just
Yeah.
say exactly what you want. Be the socialist you are, and don't try to be a socialist and be like, oh, I'm still
Yeah.
dead on to people who are not socialists. I'm like, no, just be a socialist then. Be who you
hmm
are. Be true to yourself. Then be true to
Yeah, I
yourself,
agree, and
and you'll never fall.
that's the problem. It's politics is so I don't know. I'm just the older I get, the more I'm just trying to think about, like, I'm just trying to respect everyone's opinion. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to be more like, and no matter what side, if you're a massive socialist and you believe that and you have reasons to believe that, I'm not going to argue against you,
Yeah.
because you'll know more about socialism than me. But also, if you're also on the right, I just think as long as you're a good person, do you know what I mean? As long as you're trying to live by good values,
But what
like I
happens?
just
What happens, for example? Okay, that's just hypothetical. Before we go here, because this movie fucking this movie episode has gone a turn. Okay, okay. Hypothetical questions. You have party A and party B. You have two parties here. Well,
yeah.
I'm not going to give them names and all too because yeah, so party A and party B. One party is for increased socialized benefits. No, so they're going to increase for social housing, homelessness in the street, and all too. No shit like that there and all too. And you have party B who want to cut social funds. They want to get rid of all the social housing. Don't want to help the homelessness and stuff. And your friend is voting for. So this is directly affecting people you know. Say you know your sister, your fucking auntie is on benefits, but they will cut her benefits. And your friend said, "I am voting for Party B." You're like, "This is directly affecting my family. Like, why would you vote for a party who's going to cut all this thing?" Do you think it's okay to still be? He's a nice guy. It's okay then.
Yeah,
Or,
I
are,
do.
are,
Yeah.
you, are you okay? You can have a stance, but do you think it's okay for someone to be annoyed at that person?
I think, right, well, with the example that you gave me,
Hypothetical,
I know, I understand,
yeah.
but you've told me what party A is doing and what party B is not doing.
Yeah.
So I would say, what are party B doing? I would ask, what are the reasons why that? There has to be a reason why that person is voting for party B. He's not voting for party B because fuck the poor people.
Yeah.
It's more complex than that. That's all I'm trying to say. Is like,
but again, can you see why people would be annoyed at that person for voting up?
yes,
So
but
I
I
think that's
also
where I
think
stand.
no, but I also think that you're not getting all the facts.
Oh yeah, of course
You're
not.
you're getting you're getting annoyed on principle
But
based on your own beliefs, but you're not taking into account why that person is voting for that.
but you said before that it's okay for you to vote on your own terms. Like you vote for
Yeah,
a party because
absolutely.
yourself. So why can't I or someone get annoyed at that person for voting that party?
Well,
Like,
one, I think it's a waste of energy. Two, I think it comes back to you are now trying to change how someone else should perceive the world,
but then
which I
again,
also have a
maybe
problem with.
maybe you're trying to change that person's mind because he doesn't know the full story of what they're
But
actually
you're
doing.
you're then like, to me, I think that person has such a high opinion of themselves that they actually think they've got a better moral standard than another person, which I think in itself is quite a fucking big-headed point of view.
But
It's like, I actually know way more than you, mate. You need to learn what I learn.
well,
Like, what?
I rather someone be big headed and tell me the actual facts than someone who's just like
But the
stupid.
facts are, it's the Star Wars say it's from a certain point of view. It's all from
Yeah.
a certain point of view, mate.
I know,
You know
but
what I mean?
again, if you know people who are directly, it's so easy to vote on something when you don't know who's directly affected, and that's why I said to you but before. Like, if I'm voting who, because I'm in a privileged position, and regardless who's going to be in power, like DUP and Sinn Féin in terms of local, like it's not going to change us per se. Is it? Like we're not going to be really affected by it. It's the people who are like on that lower level of society who are, if they get their benefits cut, they can't make ends meet. They can't fucking afford the bills. That's the people you need to vote for to see it
Okay,
help them
well,
and
I'll
stuff.
ask you a question then, right? So
No,
what
it's
if
done. Bye
no,
bye. See you
right? So
later.
what if you right? What if you take a party? I don't even want to say like,
Just say A and
say
B.
a,
Just, yeah.
right, party A, and
Yes.
party A has some beliefs that you really do not believe in, right?
Like what
Party
sort
A,
of?
maybe it's religious beliefs,
Okay.
maybe it's to do with Protestantism, Catholic, whatever, right? And you really don't believe in, but
Okay.
you know that party is better for the people. You know that party is going to have better like socialist values, right?
Yeah.
But you can't get past the idea that they have a completely different outlook on religion than you. They might want you to drink less alcohol. They might want
Mhm.
to like tell you how to live your life, but it's better for the people. I think you
Yeah.
would have a conflict on who to vote
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, but and that's me being biased. I always say like I know I'm biased, and I think that's one of the hardest things that people need to realize. You are biased towards a certain party, or you're biased towards a certain agenda. But I think deep down, if I knew that their policies was going to benefit the people, they're going to increase this funding towards the NHS, increase socialized housing and shit, and like attack the or address the homelessness, I'd be like, I think I really do believe that I would vote for them regardless. But again, I don't know. I've never been in that position, but I do think
So there you go. But then that's fine. Like, I think your answer is probably right, and I
yeah.
agree with you because I do think you hold those values, right? So I agree with that, and I agree that you probably would make that decision. But you also have just admitted how difficult that would be.
Yeah, no, it's difficult, yeah. But
So
again,
that's why if you can recognize that voting for someone is such a difficult thing, then I am not going to go as far as getting angry at someone for making a different choice than me.
yeah, I'm not trying to hide behind the fact that the decision is going to be difficult. I allow people to be angry at other people for voting a certain party that's going to directly affect them or people they know. I think it's okay. Personally, I think it's
I
okay.
just think I mean, that's fine.
You know
Like,
what I mean?
but
Like
I just
the
think
way
there's
like
enough hate in the world
I think
rather
that's
than just
I think it's
there's just
a
you're
lot
adding
of
to it. Like,
a lot of people don't realize why people were so anti-Trump and why people got so angry at Trump or Trump supporters. It's because a lot of people in America are obviously immigrants and stuff, and he was directly trying to attack them in there and get rid of them and all and ship them back to their countries and put a wall up and shit. So they have family members who are directly getting impacted. And for me, even though we're not in that country and we don't get impacted for on their decisions. But again, I still think it's okay for someone to get annoyed. That's all.
but I also think, yeah, and that's fine. And I also think it's okay. I mean, we can say that a minority's feeling this way, but we can also say that minorities that voted for Trump, we have no right to say they're stupid.
No, I'm not saying stupid, like, but sometimes you just gotta. I always say you gotta vote for you gotta vote for what's better for the people, for the many, not for the few.
Yeah. Aren't you just an amazing, virtuous person,
Oh
mate?
my god, I'm
You're
not.
just like,
I say this
keep
here.
patting yourself on the back, mate. Just keep patting yourself,
I
mate.
say it, like, and you always jump. You always say it, like, I'm not. I'm literally. That's what I really do believe. I think you should vote for the many. You should vote what benefits the population, not
Yeah.
just the elitists, the fucking rich people. Because the rich people are fine. Tax them an extra 10%. They're okay. They can deal with it. But if you get rid of someone's socialized fucking benefits, they're fucked. That's what I
See,
say.
I agree. Like, and I don't disagree. That's my thing. I
Well,
just think you make it too simplistic. That's all.
oh, it's always speed, but sometimes it's gotta be simple sometimes. Because if you go in the realms of high complex politics and ICB, you'll never get anywhere, and that's a bad thing about modern politics. They make it too complex to the point where people don't want to get involved. It's too much fucking of a headache to actually go through the person's policy or try to read a policy. Fuck, it's hard to read.
I
So
know,
it's like,
but then we're
oh,
just voting. We're voting based on pure anger and emotion, and
no, I
that
think no,
causes a lot of problem. Like,
I think we should just simplify things down. I think politics need to be simplified. Even a subject like mathematics, for example. I think maths could be literally one of the easiest subjects ever. But do you see the way people teach it? It's so complex. See when you get a teacher or a lecturer that explains maths or explains a formula and how an equation works, like he breaks it down to the simplistic nature of it all, and that's what we need to do with politics. Break it down to this big long ass policy. What's it actually mean? It means that there's going to be more benefits towards people with disabilities. Thank you. Just say that. Don't fucking say this big rigmarole. We're trying to fucking this. We're actually trying to give ourselves more money somewhere along the lines. Give ourselves more benefits or our bonuses or some shit. I don't know. Anyway, episode 126.
good movie.
You are now listening to MC Podcasting.